G'day and welcome to the Off-Chain Podcast. Don here with you. Our guest today is Porter Stowell, the new CEO of W3.io. Porter brings his enthusiasm, drive, and love of Web3 to his new role, having previously joined us with his role at Filecoin. We're excited to have Porter back on the show to discuss his new challenge, becoming a CEO and why Web3 needs an IQ. Let's dive in. How are you thinking about the current state of Web3, of crypto, of a very volatile traditional market and like global markets, supply chains, pretty volatile at the moment. Crypto's always been pretty volatile. So, we've got a bunch of people who are maybe more used to these kinds of waters. But what are you seeing in the kind of at that macro level in crypto at the moment?
There's a lot going on just over the last 3-4 months in crypto, particularly. And I see that we're on the precipice, if not already started a sea change, a tide change. And the way I think about it is you have two ends of the spectrum. You have like the full crypto degen side of the house, and you have the utility people who are like, I want to see revenue, like enterprise adoption, banking. I want to see the world running businesses on chain. And I think what happened, culminated by the launch of Trump and Melania coin, is that the spectrum went way all the way to the degen side. And now it's like, whether you've been in the industry or like maybe you're a meme corner, I think everyone can agree that it almost just went too far. It went too far to that side of the spectrum. And now you're starting to see the pendulum swing the other way. So someone like me with an enterprise background who came up through IBM blockchain and Coinbase, this is great news for me. Like as much as I'm a crypto degen at heart and I work with a bunch of crypto degens, like it helps to have a little bit more fundamentals coming back into vogue. So what I see like now, you see projects desperately searching for more utility, more end user adoption, and frankly, just revenues. I think, I had the chance to go to Eat Denver in February, and, some of my contacts had a line that will remain anonymous, but they said 60 of the top 100 projects are trying to reinvent themselves. Like that's a big number, but it makes a lot of sense. Like maybe they're hard forking their network. Maybe they're trying to rebrand or revitalize their community. Maybe, some projects out there just are trying to find people to take their money, to try to find real world utility. But all in all, it's like there's this urgency that's really coming to the forefront on we need utility, we need adoption, and we need people to want to pay for this stuff because it's better, cheaper, faster than the alternative.
Yeah.
Call it old fashioned.
Man, when that Trump coin came out and Melania, straight after it, I thought, have I been working in the wrong field for the last however long? Like, is this our jumping the shark moment as a whole kind of sector or industry? And like you say, man, it seemed like everyone rushed to the narrative and kind of the thing that I've been hoping for, which is exactly what you're talking about, not just the legitimacy of Web3 or crypto, but actually just seeing that utilization, seeing people actually build on it, seeing revenue come in. Again, part of that promise that seemed to, in that moment for me, I thought, oh man, is this dream actually disappearing right in front of my eyes? Where, memes have always been around. Well, not always, but, they've been a large part of the kind of crypto scene for many years now. I thought it's just become not laughing stock, but maybe this is the full realization of the promise of Web3 is just a president of the United States having his own meme coin and then his wife having a meme coin. What do you see us on that kind of, if the tide's turning, where are we at on that tide turning?
Well, it's about incentives. I can't tell you, like one of my favorite stories is I had a friend, entrepreneur. He wanted to start a on-chain credentialing business with like AI. So instead of, no one's qualified for the jobs of today because all the jobs are evolving so quickly. So he's like, I'm going to use AI. I'm going to train the people to get the credentials they need to do a job. And employers could come and see, wow, okay, this person's done the work, and has gone through the training that I need for this job. Let's hire them. So he does it a whole prototype. It's looking good. Tries to pitch it to VCs. No funding. Basically takes the same, AI agent approach, because he couldn't raise money. He goes to, I'm going to do automated NFT trading and just print cash. And he gets funded for that immediately.
Of course.
And look, there's like people start into blockchain going, I see the next generation of use cases. We're going to provide real utility. But it's such a chasm to get legacy industries or businesses to make that type of switch, that there was just too much money at hand and too much investment at hand to do like some of these DeFi projects and something that are just really crypto native, because it was just the opportunity for very fast money to be made.
Yeah. Yeah. That brings up just the whole token economics side of things, where it's been basically a license to print money again since 2016. Do an ICO in 2016, raised $20 million. We don't really have that. That kind of died pretty quickly. But I'm still with IDOs or token raisers. People could, if they're tokenomics, if the proverbial NFT project or DeFi project gets their pumponomics right, they can find investment very quickly, pump really quickly, and then disappear into obscurity, over the coming months. How do you see maybe token launches generally, but tokenomics maybe specifically?
I think they've been a disaster over the last 2 years for long-term sustainability of the projects. On the plus, it's gotten a lot of venture capitalists into the game, because if you look at what you get as a venture capitalist, you get exit liquidity at 1/5 the timeline as you did in Web2, and with exponential upside. Like there's a number of coin launches or TGE events where, I know VCs who 4x their money on launch, and they didn't get full liquidity, but for them it's like a free roll on how that project does over the long term. But to 4x your liquidity in 18 months is unheard of in the venture capital space. Yeah. So Web3 is delivering on a really exciting promise of liquidity. The problem is, the way I look at it is their token models were broken because there was nothing preventing the token holder or investor to hold on, remain an investor, other than token price go up. Mm-hmm. So my thought, there has to be something else that you can allocate to the token holder that has real value and trade-offs above and beyond just the price go up. And I have the privilege of knowing Mark Yusko, who's very famous in the crypto streets, specifically around blockchain, Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and he's like, I want access to future cash flows as a token investor. And it's how do you take real revenue that your project is generating and have that value, that revenue value, flow down to the token holders. So if you think about that model, if I decide to sell or liquidate or unstake my token, what I'm really saying I'm doing is I can no longer participate in an ecosystem that's generating future cash flows. So now that's a reason for me to weather bear markets. Yeah. It makes me behave differently than just pure speculation on token go up, where crypto has proven also over the last 2 years that it's near to impossible to find how fundamentals on adoption, protocol adoption, equate to price movements. That does not exist.
Well, yeah, because the token's not attached to anything other than speculation, right?
Yeah, it has utility. So like there are usage for tokens. There are, you can lock them up in various means across various projects. There's DeFi, there's liquidity pools. There's things that you need from a token to run and operate solutions. There's all sorts of utility out there for these things, but those realities are just so disconnected from the narrative and, just macro, trading cycles.
Yeah. So do you think that if I buy a traditional stock, then for some, there might be, I'm not just hoping that the value goes up, but there might be dividends that get paid, and there's some maybe genuine stake in the governance of that particular company. Obviously, that kind of gets us into a regulatory landscape that's different from, a traditional DeFi, unregulated maybe, or in some jurisdiction that, doesn't really care or matter. So we're not necessarily talking about securities, depending on, again, who you ask. But is that a potential future, do you think? Or we don't need to go down that equity kind of road because there's enough in the utility and cash flow space to make a token valuable?
Yeah, I think utility tokens are the way to go. And I don't think we're fully getting to a place where the utility of a token is being fully realized. And the reason for that is because there's just not enough end user adoption that is driving real revenues across the ecosystem. Shocker, businesses survive and thrive sustainably on revenues, not about token price. Token price, is a part of, in crypto, it is a part of the net outcome and how you value and benchmark about how you're doing. But what's been missing is the fundamental aspects of revenue. So, again, as we swing back the other way on the pendulum, now you're seeing a lot of focus on revenue generation, end user adoption, better, cheaper, faster solutions, and making the IT stack itself, that is Web3, more accessible, consumable. So it becomes better than the off-chain alternatives.
And do you reckon is there an aspect of we have to train or educate people who are already in the market but have been treating it like a casino, maybe on more of the MT or chip end of the spectrum, or you just build it and people will follow the meta?
I think both the professional and the retail investor has learned from the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And this is why I think the meme coin revolution was great. There was no value, they were very upfront about saying there was no value underneath these tokens.
Yeah.
It was 100% narrative. And look what happened to the people who got on that roller coaster. They're all, I don't know, probably down 80% on average. You don't need to educate someone who's been on that roller coaster again.
Sure.
I think they know to look for. So I'm raising money right now. You don't have to tell VCs about the value of revenue coming into an ecosystem.
Sure.
The crypto project. They understand, and I think they value it in a way that I have yet to hear in quite some time. But they do want liquidity, and they do want tokenomics, and they want those aspects as well, because otherwise, why invest in Web3? Because one of the benefits from a venture capital perspective is better liquidity terms. So, I don't think on the retail side, they're all learning these lessons, and you learn it through experiences, and then they just haven't been presented with tangible stories of real adoption and real revenue. You look at crypto Twitter on any given day, you'll see, Project X working with Project Y, but that, there's nothing behind those updates and comms.
Yeah.
So
when I worked in VC, we used to call those like Hollywood marriages, where it's just for the PR. There's no actual love. There's no plan for the future. It's just, this will make a nice paparazzi shot, get us in the paper.
Yeah. And if you show them, hey, we're really solving a problem, or hey, we're really generating revenue, then I think you will get retail's attention, and they're going to want to participate.
Yeah. So you have changed jobs recently. Tell us, what are you doing now, and how did they get you over?
Wow, big story. And I'm really excited about this because it captures all the things we talked about. So let's just quick recap for the audience what we talked about. Token models are broken. You need a balance between tokenomics and business model.
Hmm.
You need you still need to cater to the retail, the crypto degen crowd with because you want like strong liquidity, strong community, but you need to provide better, cheaper, faster solutions if the whole industry is going to work.
Yep.
And I had been I've been doing this work since 2017 when I joined IBM Blockchain. I started on the enterprise blockchain rails, and that was an epic failure. But a lot of the principles which enterprise blockchain was trying to solve was revenue focus, client adoption, all the things that you need to get big business to adopt this technology and never look back. But yet, as it evolves, I was coming most recently from Filecoin, where Filecoin was selling, had a product, well, I would say the service, which is decentralized data storage.
Hmm.
The problem with that is if you're out there trying to sell decentralized data storage, it's very difficult to do because that's not what customers want to buy. Customers want to buy a data storage solution.
Yeah.
They don't want just cold. They want hot, cold, disaster recovery, anti-ransomware. They want, full control over where their data lives. They don't want to get sucked into walled gardens and pay massive egress fees for moving the data. And that was just an example of, I really got hammered home that customers buy solutions to problems. They don't buy tech. And then, that through Filecoin, I saw that, wow, it's not just Filecoin who has this problem. Every project has this problem. And, I always tell Filecoin, my Filecoin community, it's if everyone tossed their problems into a giant pile, Filecoin would quickly take its problems back because at least it has a utility solution that makes sense to people and solves a real problem. So they're actually better off than most here. But I started to find myself doing more solution work for Filecoin because that's where the adoption was. Because how do you go to a customer and say hey, this is what you need. Web3 has the solution you're looking for, and it's going to transform your business.
Hmm.
Filecoin was at most 10% of those conversations. The other 90% were other parts of the Web3 ecosystem.
Right.
And ultimately, it comes down to a conversation on verifiability and why on-chain's better and decentralization is better than Web2 public cloud alternatives. And through that journey, I had been advising W3 for over a year. And I saw a platform that enabled the creation of solutions to get to that better, cheaper, faster with that could drive real world adoption. And I also saw, multiple other challenges that I saw in Web3. At Filecoin, I was paying for one-off integrations all the time.
Mm.
And it was extremely inefficient and expensive and time consuming. So there's an integration challenge. But all the solutions are not one piece of technology. It's how do you stitch all these pieces of technology together so they can fit into existing business processes that are never going to change from the eyes of the end user. You're never going to go to JP Morgan and say, hey, we really need you to adhere to Citibank's business processes here for this solution to work. Never going to happen. And that's just a one-to-one relationship.
Mm.
You think of a world where RWA's real world assets are being traded across all these major financial institutions, all with their own chains,
Hmm.
all with their own components. How are you going to get those to work at scale? You need a standard, like a workflow layer where everyone can plug into for these things to really be interoperable. And to expand to get this all done on chain. The problem, people have is that it's just too hard to do things on chain than it is off chain. And that's what even with Web3 native companies, there's a reason why Web3 companies spend over $1 billion a year on public cloud services. Is because we're still not at a place where on-chain alternatives are better, cheaper, faster than off-chain ones. So like we can't even eat our own dog food as an industry.
But is it because the tech isn't there, or is it because the solution, like I said before, customers buy solutions, not tech? Is the technology there? We just don't have it kind of wrapped up or packaged in a bow that's actually easily accessible. Is the bar too high to utilize technology, or is the technology not there yet?
So the tech is there in Web3. It's just the usability of it all in the aggregate is not. Because if you're going to an end user and you're just selling storage, well, what if I need storage and compute? What if I need storage, compute, and I need a new NoSQL database. I need compliance. I need identity. I need all these other things that Web3 provides. But you're transitioning the burden of complexity and verifiability onto the end user.
Oh, dang.
And that's what we're going to apply.
Yeah.
They don't want that burden. They want a one-stop shop with a single throat to choke and a single monthly payment where they pay as they go. So when I saw W3, I saw an organization able to deliver on that promise, because they're operating like we're really trying to be the Switzerland of Web3. We don't care, which NoSQL database, which layer one you want to settle to. Everything's composable, and you integrate once, and now the entire ecosystem can begin to put these Lego blocks together in any way they see fit, in an effort to get to a solution that is the end-to-end application that can easily plug in out of the box into an end user's IT environment.
So we had David Post on the podcast about a year ago, back when W3 was really just, I guess it's still really, really getting started, but it was still kind of, hushed whispers in kind of back rooms, what is this new thing going to be? And that, we have this problem in Web3 and we need this, like you said, this common layer or solution. In the last kind of year or so, maybe even just this year, have you found, or what are you seeing W3 kind of become, or how is it delivering on that solution, not just tech, that one-stop shop workflow layer? How actually seeing this materialize?
It's been really exciting. I never before in my career have I closed and scoped pilot opportunities within one call.
Yeah, right.
So it's Web 2, it's Web 3, it doesn't matter. They're like, let's go. And it's the promise of better, cheaper, faster. So my prioritization is built on how do we get to as many solutions as possible? Because if you get to solutions, you're going to drive real revenue and value through the entire ecosystem and platform. And, at first people are coming to us because they're like, hey, you want to do some integration work with our platform, and you'll find clients for us, and we just need to sit here and, collect the money. That sounds great. We'll give you a shot. But then, ultimately what they're seeing is, oh, wait, now we're going to have repeat solutions. So what I build and sell to one customer can now be sold to 5 more customers and 5 different verticals. So now you're getting a lot of repeat solutions, all of which are, driving real cash flows through the platform. Then you can take the same underlying pieces of technology. So we have ingredients. Those are your off-chain compute providers. You put one or more of those together into a recipe. That's like the back-end technical integration that solves a specific problem. And then you wrap it in an end-to-end application for a specific use case or vertical. That's a solution. So now, through pioneering our own solutions and recipes, we can go back out to our ecosystem and say, No, this really scales up and you can get access to way more client opportunities, way more usage if you actually build recipes and solutions at the same time. Because this is how it levels up to get to a place where people will actually adopt you.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of like a kind of what kinds of ingredients might come into a recipe? And it doesn't have to be one that's, I don't want you to give away anyone's secrets, but do you have any, help us kind
Yeah.
of
So,
put some meat on that bone.
and like a lot of times it's not rocket science, but it's just putting good tech together to solve a problem. So, you hear a lot on multi-agent AI, and we're working with the LinkedIn of social media influencers in Web2. It's called Creatorland. So, Creatorland has about 50,000 what I call professional influencers.
Mhm.
So, if you were an influencer full time, you're out there influencing for money for the most part. That's your business. So, you may get 100 to 1,000 emails a day for, influencer solicitations. So we create a multiple agent AI framework where they'll read the email, qualify the deal, negotiate the deal, and at the end of the day, say, these are your top 5 deals, accept, accept, accept.
Wow.
So we just now took an 8-hour day of sifting and negotiating emails for this influencer and turned it into 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's transformational for that business
Oh, yeah.
and their user base. So like that one isn't, no one thinks about that as like a Web3 use case, but it's just taking Web3 tools and applying it to a Web2 situation. They can't find the solution anywhere else.
Mm.
So, nor is anyone catering to them with multi-agent AI solutions. So, we're the only ones who show up at the door. So we're not competing against anyone.
Yeah, interesting. And because I guess you're not just stuck in that one, you're not stuck with one kind of provider or service provider or project either, right? So actually you're making combinations of things where perhaps the average Web2 solution is going to have everything either in-house or they are themselves kind of subcontracting other solutions into their solution rather than just utilizing a bunch of different solutions. We're trying to think about even the game theory of, everyone who contributes to a recipe, their incentives are kind of aligned versus if I'm just utilizing someone's solution, then, maybe we might be a competition with each other. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, again, trying to wrap my head around how this can work in a way that it doesn't actually work anywhere else.
Using the Creatorland example, the ingredients we use for that are Kite AI, space and time, and hyperbolic. So we have an AI, a compute, and a NoSQL database. Look at the opposite of going to Creatorland saying, I have these tools that we think would be beneficial for you to use. They're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Sure.
They need, it doesn't solve, you're putting the burden of what problem needs to be solved on people who aren't technical.
Yeah.
Like the businesses are still making decisions from the business leader. Very rarely do you see it done at the technical level. Yeah, sure. If you're procuring specific IT services, sure. But when you're trying to do these types of adoption, it takes, it's the business people making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that solution, so Kite, hyperbolic, and space and time, that's a recipe. The solution, which is deal qualification, deal negotiation, that's a solution. Now I can take that same solution and go to anyone else who may have lots of emails where you need to deal qualify and negotiate autonomously.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great, this was the aha, I'm going to give you the aha moment where I really started to geek out about W3 and why I'm excited. So now, Kite, Hyperbolic, and Space and Time have a vested interest in selling that solution instead of themselves. And they can go out all their own individual relationships, sell that same solution that solves a problem, and maintain ownership of that end user.
Mm-hmm.
So now, like, you don't have, like, how does that work today? Half the time, you're bringing someone into a sales conversation where you don't know how they're going to act. You don't know what they're going to say or how they're going to deliver. You want to own the customer relationship because it's your reputation on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to invite these other partners into the room because you're already selling a solution that works end to end.
Yes, the value of them, man, right? That's pretty cool.
All right, so now I have 3 organizations selling the same solution. So I just increased my sales pipeline, my potential pipeline by 3x. Okay, what's preventing anyone else from coming in and saying, I want to sell that solution? And that was a moment where, again, what are we really trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for an adoption problem.
Mm-hmm.
Adoption problem is better, cheaper, faster than the next best alternative. The second part is you need a sales force who's willing to go out there and sell.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that if they're successful, that time they would have spent, getting, qualifying, pursuing, and closing leads is more than compensated when these deals close. In Web2, they call it residual. So as long as a customer keeps paying, whoever brought that client onto the platform keeps getting paid. You want to solve adoption, you need the incentives for sellers to go out there and make a living doing this. like I said, I've been in this industry for 8 years. People ask me all the time, how do I get involved? Now, if they were technical, it's a pretty easy answer.
Uh-huh.
Go build something. What do you tell the business people? Trust me, it's a nuanced answer.
Yeah.
It's like, what's up? You're saying, tell me your skills. What are you interested in? Like, you got to go down this huge rabbit hole. Where I want to say is go sell something.
Uh-huh.
You want to get into this industry? Go sell something. What is there to sell? You can't sell anything.
Yeah.
So, we're asking, like, where's the adoption? Well, where's our army of sellers?
Mm-hmm.
You can't like, Bitcoin has sellers. It's called BlackRock.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, Bitcoin got a sales force. Where's everyone else's sales force? And the crazy thing is, no one's talking about getting a sales force. These projects have BD teams. They're all focused on partnerships. No one's going after, like, very few projects are going after direct end user adoption. They're out there. They exist and they're doing well. But, you want to drive Web3 to become the de facto technology standard. You need sellers.
Yeah.
But what is there to sell? And, when I saw this solution framework at W3, the real appeal is, oh my God, if you have open solutions that anyone could go out and sell, your sales plane could increase 1,000, 10,000, 100,000x. And if it's a baked end-to-end application that works out of the box, there's a way for them to be successful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because all you want is usage and that revenue flowing through the platform. So the aha moment for me is when I kind of sat with the technology that W3 had built. My end conclusion was, this is going to be the largest decentralized sales force in all of Web3.
Is that, just thinking about incentivizing that sales force, are they selling W3 recipes? Are they white labeling solutions? Are they selling the underlying tech as a solution? Like, are they saying, well, we got Space and Time, we got Kite, this is how we make it work? Or are they just, how does that actually materially work?
So they sell solutions. So again, creator land, using the creator land example, that is a multi-agent AI that does deal qualification and negotiation, right? So any seller could grab that solution, white label it, not white label it, but it's a white label. And then they could go bring that to their target audience, their target client list.
Mhm.
Or it's, it's a very plug and play application. So um, then they'd be responsible for like that last mile integration and configuration to work with the end user. But that there'll be docs and support and things that you could complement your skill set if you needed that support just to get the customer up and going. But now you're creating a whole nother industry on last mile sales support.
Yeah.
Or solution architecture. There's plenty of people who will contract and help you out in those situations if you can't do it on your own. But it is a white label situation. And what I originally thought was it was just going to be the ingredients, the kites, hyperbolics, and space and times that
Mhm.
would sell it. But what's really preventing you from opening up to a larger sales audience?
Yeah. So they can make money in the selling and implementing, but then also in the residuals. That's tied to token, or is that tied to partnership agreements?
So when you sell, you are earning token incentivization on usage. The USDC flows to the solution itself. The
Mhm.
solution is basically, a smart contract with all the payment flows. So you'll set the margin where you're like a solution, whoever created the solution and owns it will have a predetermined margin that they're able to pull out per use. And then, there'll be automated payments and settlement for all the ingredient partners based on usage. Can't hear you.
All right. Must have clicked a button there. So I understand how you are getting, like you say, you've got partners who are coming on board, in one phone call. How are you finding the people? How are you communicating to those kinds of people who might be that sales force? It's one thing because like we say, you can't just build the technology. You got to go and actually make it consumable, or you got to have the solution. How are you making this a solution for people who want to go sell to enterprise, or who want to go actually become your sales force?
Yeah, like the dream of having the largest decentralized sales force is longer term.
Sure.
And we have to be realistic on how do you drive platform adoption? That is the question. So if the problem with the industry right now is no one has enough access to revenue and real usage, sustained usage, we have to demonstrate that we're able to generate that for an ecosystem. So again, the most simplistic form of adoption is, hey, you integrate with W3 and become part of our ecosystem. We're building solutions. We'll include you in those solutions, and you can passively get usage and revenue through us. Sure, sounds great. And that's why we're incubating the initial solutions. And we know we have some doozies that are just really big opportunities from like ARR perspective on how much cash they generate. And like, again, if you're just earning small bits of transaction fees on billions of dollars, that's a good business to be in. And we've identified a handful of those types of opportunities, which we're really excited about. But, ultimately, that's great for incubating W3 in terms of cash flow.
Mhm.
But what we really want to do is show how that cash comes in through the system and how all the mechanics and incentives work. So there's, how does the seller get compensated? What does it look like for this to be a solution owner when you have all that USDC flowing into you and you get the first cut of the pie? How does it work when usage occurs and all the ingredients get paid automatically through the platform.
Mhm.
Now, like we incentivize value creation. So the incentive is in the token, the usage goes through the cash. So you need to be able to show people examples that they're a part of or not a part of. This is how this platform works. Look at the numbers. And the goal is to switch an ingredient off of being a passive participant into an active participant. Because then you want them into the solution creation game. Because once they're in the solution creation game, now you've expanded now you can invite sellers in to expand your sales plane. Now you're driving more usage, which you own and you get USDC from. You're getting incentives on building solutions. And at the end of the day, that usage is still going down to your base protocol or project. So now you're earning on multiple levels, or you could earn on multiple. You could, if you're space and time, for example, you could sell to your own client list. You could own a solution which you're a part of, and you can still get the usage of your, paid on the usage of your platform. So I just 3x my earning potential as an ingredient versus what's my alternative? I go out there and sell on my own if I'm space and time.
Yeah.
But again, I'm running into that problem, which is people don't buy a NoSQL database.
Mhm.
They want to buy a solution to a problem.
Yeah.
So our whole goal is to show people why they want to be in the solutions game and how that makes, whether, even if you're an ecosystem like Avalanche, you don't want your developers focused on building tools and solving problems that already exist. You just want them to grab these tools and combination of tools that already exist that are related to your problem, so you can focus on building the stuff that really matters and is unique.
Yeah, man.
Our CTO got into this game because all he did in enterprise tech was, spin up infrastructure, set up processes. He was doing 90% of his work was the same work.
Mhm.
Let's just eliminate this so you can get to the value creation that really matters.
Yeah, that's really good. Which kind of industries or verticals are you finding are getting this vision the quickest, or see who are the early adopters?
AI and RWAs. And what they realize is that when you're doing multi-party workflow, complex multi-party workflows,
Mhm.
you can't have one-to-one integrations. You need a standards layer where you can abstract each individual's business processes and coordinate across all of the players. Again, it's hard enough for JP Morgan to work with Citibank, let alone JP Morgan, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs.
Mhm.
It's just never going to happen. So, and the same with AI, you're never going to have one AI standard that rules them all. You need to be flexible. You need to be adaptable. So if all these different standards are going to talk to each other and work together and scale in this multi-party complexity, it needs a layer above it for them to work. So much of the pilot work going on, it's one-to-one. Hey, let's just test this out. But when people are getting really contemplating, how do we scale this thing? And to work across all these parties simultaneously,
Mhm.
and with automation, they're coming to us because they know they can't do it, and they're never going to change existing business processes or compliance frameworks.
If you can stare into your crystal ball and think about the rest of 2025 and include 2026, what are some of the shifts that you're seeing, or at least thinking are going to happen across Web3, or maybe just across the globe? And what are you doing at the moment to kind of not future-proof, but take advantage of those shifts that you're seeing coming down the pipeline?
Ooh, I think you're going to see every new token project radically change their token model design
Right.
for that.
Because it's not working, or because there's a better way?
It's not working.
Yeah.
I mean, if there are success stories out there, it's because these are projects that are generating revenue and they're incentivizing the right type of value creation for the network. So, but you need both, and you need that focused on real world adoption.
Mhm.
And like this is something I learned at Filecoin. Filecoin had incentives, but the incentives weren't aligned to what success really looked like. There was a lot of gray in the rules. So that prevented Filecoin from being laser focused on real world adoption.
Mhm.
And again, it's very slight and would have been impossible to spot on the onset. But now we have hindsight bias where, all these projects, including Filecoin, can see, how small language pieces of language and code can influence how the community interacts with it. That this is, there's been so much education on when you put open source code out into the crypto wilderness, how it gets adopted. And you have to have guardrails on how your game is played, or else people are going to exploit it.
Mhm.
So now there's the next evolution is people refining that language and being intentional and laser focused on what the right type of value creation needs to occur and how to directly laser pinpoint incentives to achieve that outcome.
Have you found it's interesting that you talk about that people will try to exploit every system, especially in crypto Web3. And I'm not even just talking about nefariously or maliciously exploit. I mean, they'll come up with solutions that the original creators hadn't even thought of. Have you found that at all with W3 in your time there? I don't know if you've only been there a short time, but have you found users that are thinking outside the box or orthogonally in kinds of ways that you thought, oh, we're going to offer this, but then they see, oh, we can use it over here, and you hadn't thought of that. Has that happened yet? I'm sure
Not
it will,
yet.
but yeah.
Not yet. And I think when you, especially at post TGE, those lessons will be forced upon a lot of organizations. Because again, when you launch a token, like it is now part of a free market system.
Yeah.
And that's where the community at large will test you in every way, shape, and form possible. So, right now we're still in more of a protected incubation mode, focused on making sure, we can bring solutions to market because they have end users attached to them. So it's very product centric in that way on the onset, but it's in the goal of showing how we can generate real revenue.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other big predictions I have. I do think you're going to continue to see the pendulum swing away from meme coins and the crypto degens, at least back to center, where it will be a mix of degenerates and, call it enterprisey, where, hey, business adoption, cash flows,
Fundamentals.
utility,
Yeah.
fundamentals. Yeah. So like, I don't think it's going to go crazy, but it's going to feel significant given that we were at the ultimate side of one side of the spectrum.
Yeah. What you mentioned before, that you are in the middle of raising. We have a bunch of founders or aspiring founders who watch or listen to the show here. What kind of lessons have you learned so far? And how are you finding the fundraising landscape in the middle of 2025?
I think the first thing I've noticed is macro plays a role. And you have to look at the evolution of the crypto VC to understand why that's essential. So there's a number of funds out there who raised in like 21
Mhm.
and then probably deployed in 22. How is that fund up?
Yeah.
Maybe they hit a few good ones, maybe they didn't. It was kind of a rough vintage to start or to launch a new fund. So now we're in 2025, and what are they trying to do? They're trying to raise their next fund.
Mhm.
Now you have one, maybe not the best track record over the last 2 years. Two, a macro environment where everyone starts to get alligator arms and deploying capital.
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest challenge has been just the liquidity of funds. Like, there's not a lot of the amount of dry powder on the sidelines right now is tough. And that's mostly because I think a lot of these funds have gone through their last fund and they need to raise more. And it's a tough environment to raise for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I've enjoyed is that as an enterprise guy, who came up through big tech, I feel that now I don't have to apologize for talking about fundamentals. Like, I don't have to be as critical. And then there's a much more accepting audience when I talk about revenue, utility, adoption, and cash flows.
Mm-hmm.
I also think the more underappreciated item in the industry's evolution right now is the rapid acceptance, I should say, of USDC.
Yeah.
So when I talk to a Web2 client or a Web3 client, you don't have to explain USDC. They don't see it as risky. They know what it is, even Web2. And when you're dealing with revenues and you're trying to get to a state where your ecosystem, your partners, there's predictability and stability on how to forecast and plan, that has tremendous value.
Yeah.
Versus before, you're getting paid in some token that's got 80% volatility. Good luck planning a business around that.
Yeah.
So I think that's been an underappreciated story on how it's going to support Web3 adoption. I'd say the other part is, let's see. I do think like having an approach on token model and how you're going to avoid the pitfalls that have occurred over the last 18 months. Like, these are identified landmines.
Mm-hmm.
Have a narrative on how you're not going to step on the same ones over like the last group did. So,
yeah.
I think 10 years from now, people are going to look back on this time. And this is why I took the leap into W3 when I really got perspective. You're going to look back on this time and say, oh my God, this was the goal. Like, this was the golden age to be a Web3 entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
Think about it. Like, AI is out there, so you can be extremely efficient if you know how to use, Claude and ChatGPT in a way that founders would have killed 5 years ago to have. So you have the tools, but we don't have this huge wave of new entrepreneurs coming into tech right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the layoffs, like, you don't see thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people starting startups right now.
Why not? That seems bizarre to me.
Look, I get it. Some people, it's not in their DNA. There's a variety of reasons, but I think 10 years from now, like, you're going to look back like, oh my God, AI was mature enough. The AI crypto story, everyone understood, but yet no one had delivered on yet.
Mm-hmm.
Real world assets are coming to age. Crypto payment rails are coming of age. There's all these things coming of age, and there's just no one who's built the solutions to make it consumable.
Yep.
And I say this because I love listening to Raoul Pal. And if you listen to his talk on the Everything Code, he says, you have 6 years to unfuck your future. And what he's really saying is that all this AI in particular and innovation is going to occur over the next 6 years. It's going to be a gold rush. .com was just created.
Mhm.
Like you have been gifted this macro scenario, and he can't predict how good the entrepreneurial landscape will be 6 years from now. But he's like, this is the Wild West for the next 6 years.
Mhm.
And that, it took me a while, but it's stuck. Because, people say, I'm afraid of AI in my job. The only logical answer, if you're afraid that AI is going to take your job, is become an AI founder.
Yeah, get really good at AI.
Yeah. Or, be really good at it or start a company that leverages it.
Yeah.
So, and then, after 6 years, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, there's going to be barriers to entry, it's going to be a saturated market.
Mhm.
But right now, it's very easy to see why this is a sweet spot for becoming an entrepreneur who is at the intersection of Web3 and AI.
Do you have any suggestions on how to get started? So say you're one of the recent layoffs, or you're someone worried about AI taking over your job, and you think, you know what, I would like to go and be an AI entrepreneur or blockchain entrepreneur. What's the next thing, the best next step?
Take an inventory. And when I say take an inventory, obviously anyone who listens to the show is going to have a different background, different experience. But you have more assets on your balance sheet than you probably give yourself credit for. So taking an inventory means who do I have connections with? If there's one thing AI is never going to recreate, at least not in the short term, it's your network.
Mm.
And what I find in Web3 is I'm doing business with good people. And they're good people because they're kind, they're intelligent, they're inquisitive, and they're great. They're great at their jobs. And I want to work with them, and they want to work with me. And I think if you took inventory of your skills, your relationships, your network, you'll find that you probably have more of those things than you think. And that's how it gets started. Because ultimately, if you're going to go out on your own, you're going to have to convince someone at some point to do something.
Yeah.
And that's based on relationships. I always love that famous YouTube where it's the crazy guy dancing at the concert festival.
Mhm.
And then it takes the one guy to come up and start dancing with him.
Yeah.
And then that
That's
validates it.
the guy that makes it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I think anyone, no matter what, if you're a marketing products, tech, you have a network, you have people who trust you, people who believe in you, whether you believe it or not. And the question is just, what does that network look like? And how do you begin to leverage it? Because AI is never going to take that away.
Mhm. Porter, if you, now you're at the helm of W3IO, you can achieve your full vision over the next 2 to 5 years. What does the Web3 ecosystem look like when W3IO is like fully operational? People are using it. You've got the world's largest decentralized Salesforce leveraging it. What does W3, the ecosystem look like?
It is the go-to standards level for connecting all the best Web3 off-chain compute projects.
Mhm.
So it's going to show up in usage and solutions. So I want W3 to have more end-to-end solutions driving multiple end user adoption. So all that value is accruing to the platform. And I think when you have if you are the repository for end-to-end applications and solutions, you will get the Salesforce. And if you get the Salesforce, you're going to get more ingredient partners wanting to come in. And if you get the ingredient partners come in, the amount of recipes you can create become infinite. Because now they're Lego blocks.
Yep.
Different color Lego blocks that anyone can come in and configure to their liking. Whether it's you're creating a new use case, a solution for a new use case, or maybe you're just subbing out one ingredient for another. It doesn't matter. And, my vision in 2 years is that all the legacy communities and ecosystems, the ones who are like the eigenlayers, the avalanches, the arbitrums, the bases of the world, their developer ecosystems realize that they don't need to recreate the wheel, and that they can come work through us and with base, with their L1 of choice, and still drive that value for their native community. Because again, we're going to be Switzerland. We don't care. Like, if you're an Avalanche diehard, be an Avalanche diehard. Create apps for Avalanche. Create solutions for Avalanche, and have that volume, like that value, accrue to the Avalanche community. That's exactly what we want, and we are just a means for you to achieve that value by making allowing you to create and focus on the value add components that drive end user adoption. And it's just a much more efficient use of your time, of everyone's time. And if you can be the coordination and standards layer that makes it all this interoperable, composable across chain, you're fulfilling the vision that is Web3, which is an on-chain future. End-to-end don't trust, verify. Like, it was that line alone that got me into Filecoin, that really, got me a level deeper into Web3. And that's the promise I want to fulfill.
If someone wants to hear more from you online or find out more about W3IO, where can they find you?
All right, W3.io is on Twitter and LinkedIn. We got a lot of exciting announcements coming up, so please stay tuned. We're going to be launching testnet and doing, a really interesting node offering that is going to be associated with the revenue generation from these solutions. So if you've been paying attention, hopefully you can grok exactly what that could mean. Myself, I'm on LinkedIn, Porter Stowell, and I'm on Twitter /X at Stowell Porter, all one word, but in reverse. And, I'm constantly out there posting thoughts, reflections, updates, what have you. And looking forward to living off chain on the Off Chain podcast. On chain, living on chain, on the Off Chain podcast.
Yeah, that's fun. Good on you, Porter. Really looking forward to seeing, all of that stuff materialize or realize, I should say, over the next couple of months, and testnet in particular. Looking forward to that. We'll have you back on, hopefully, in the future, and hear more about how you're going.
You got it. Always a pleasure, Don.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Off-Chain Podcast. We love bringing you great guests like Porter, and hope we've inspired you to think and learn more about technology, blockchain, finance, the future, and how you might be a part of building it. As always, please like, subscribe, or better yet, share this episode with a friend. Help us spread the word, and join us again next week for another exciting episode of Off-Chain with me, Don. Until then, take care.